Bubble Task Force Epsilon 6, Wendigo reporting in. Alrighty, so I am on a road trip, and I'm moving pretty fast here, but before we get into tonight's entry, I want you to know that there will be two separate entries that will be going back to back. We will be starting off with SCP-7819, mainly because it's kind of a comfort entry for me, but also, most importantly, one of my better friends, researcher Crow, turned me on to this thing, and it resurfaced a lot of core memories that I had at this place. So I thought, it would be fun to share some of these with you guys. So let's begin. SCP-7819, otherwise known as No Vacancies. Object class? Uncontained. Technically, it is still a Keter class. Special containment procedures. If you're currently under the influence of SCP-7819, please immediately refer to Addendum 1. SCP-7819 is still under active study. If you believe you have come into contact with it, contact the research lead immediately. Now, for some of you wondering, what is Addendum 1? Well, allow me to explain. Addendum 1 is an entire survival guide written by various members of the SCP Foundation, all sites, all different locations, all over the place. And they've all come together to figure out how to beat this thing, and they have. It's just, everyone has their own particular section down. And unfortunately, we lost a lot of good people just figuring this out. We will get into the survival guide, but first I want to give you a quick description of this place. So, SCP-7819 is a predatory location that manifests along the exits of the United States numbered highway system in the contiguous United States. SCP-7819's appearance is generally fixed. It presents as a small roadside hotel or motel, advertising vacant rooms, always identified by exterior signage as the Rest Easy Inn. And several conditions must be met for SCP-7819 to manifest a driver. So the time must be between midnight and 4 a.m. local time zone. The driver of the vehicle must have been driving for over 5 hours, discounting small breaks. The driver must be a past or present Foundation employee, and the driver must be alone in the vehicle. Alright, so that being said, upon driving near SCP-7819, the driver will begin to feel a deep-seated sense of fatigue and tiredness, and it is unclear whether this is a natural reaction to driving for several hours and seeing as an opportunity for a break, or an anomalous phenomenon caused by SCP-7819 to lure drivers in. But regardless, this fatigue will continue as the driver pulls off the highway into the parking lot, and you're basically not safe. Also, want to point this out, should the driver drive past the motel, a sense of fatigue will remain through unknown means, and their vehicle will seamlessly be transported several miles backwards, often without their realization. They will drive past 7819 again and will be transported backward again, and the process will continue until they finally find a parking spot inside SCP-7819. So now, let's move on to this survival guide, and it's kind of lengthy, but we're going to power through this because I think this is actually kind of fun. So this is the SCP-7819 Survival Guide, and it is up to date, all the way up to March 26, 1996. So, first place we're going to start with is the parking lot. So here the instructions say to bring your car to an empty space, try to select one that's surrounded by other vehicles to separate yourself from the pack, would draw attention. Once you're parked, exit your vehicle. Take only what you need, whatever device you're reading this document on, your cellular phone, keys, purse, wallet, and a bag containing some toiletries and essentials. Luggage and clothing will slow you down. And if you have been equipped with a firearm or one privately, do not take it in with you. Against my better judgment, I actually left the firearm in the car when I did this. Spend some time in the parking lot before you enter the lobby. Observe the other cars around you. You will note inconsistencies such as wheels made of wood, unclear jumbles where logos and brand marks should be, and shapes and designs that do not correspond with any actual vehicles produced by automotive companies. Looking through the windows. If there's a large burning vehicle in the lot, do not investigate it further. If at all possible, pretend it's not even there and enter the lobby before the fire goes out. I will say, I followed the protocol, pulled my forerun into the parking spot of this dingy sex motel, and the last parking spot actually the lot was completely full otherwise. I grabbed a few things and I squeezed out of the car, parked next to this big Dodge Caravan, except, well, it wasn't. It's like you described a caravan to someone and then they described it to someone else, and then that person had to make a model of what they just heard out of paper mache. I accidentally knocked a hand against it and realized it was made out of some kind of plaster. It was hollow. It was weird. This next place is the lobby. And the instructions go as such. Upon entering the lobby, make your way to the front desk. It will be unoccupied. You may ring the bell once, and if, you can do it. You don't have to. Wait in the lobby without exiting it. Hum your favorite song to yourself as you wait, and the silence in the lobby has been described as oppressive. Stop humming when you become aware of noises coming from behind the counter. Hop the counter where there should be a closed door rattling as such, and it should sound like someone's on the other side. Listen to the sounds and note them down. When they get louder, repeatedly slam your fist against the door. Do not speak. Eventually you will be slipped a key to the room, and this may not work on the first attempt, but just repeat it until you succeed. Say thank you and depart. I mean, when this happened for me, the door was firmly locked and I could just hear through it. It was like the walls were paper thin. It was pretty filthy. There's this periodic wet coughing. The slapping stops during the coughing, and also there's this moaning, like in pain, like someone's starving to death. I can hear a whispering too, and sometimes the moaning and whispering and coughing are all at the same time. I don't know how many people are in there, but I froze after a few seconds and they went back to it. It was fucking weird as shit. Our next space is the elevator. Your room will inevitably be on a higher floor, and you will be unable to find stairs, forcing you to use the elevator. You will notice that the buttons are in an inexplicable pattern, and you have unclear writing on them. Press whichever one feels right. There will never be another person in the elevator with you. If you see someone, be aware that they're not human. Treat them with the appropriate level of caution, and do not remove your eyes from them. And always stand with your back against a wall. If the figure resembles an older, clean-cut man wearing an expensive suit and overcoat, do not enter the elevator. It will smile at you, compliment your appearance, and hold the door for you. It will do this for up to several minutes, repeatedly attempting to convince you to enter. Politely but firmly tell it that you are just passing through, and you will wait for the next one. Stand beyond the threshold. It cannot pursue you outside of the elevator. Eventually, it will move on. And if the figure resembles a younger vagrant, it is safe to enter the elevator. They won't speak. They offer you a hug. Accepting this has no consequence, and it is left to your discretion. When you arrive at the floor, they may offer you a small trinket, such as a tin duck or ceramic ashtray. Accept it gratefully and keep it close at hand. Now, I want you guys to know I have my own, experiences with all of these, but if I tell you each one will be here forever. So let's just move on to the next one. The next are the hallways. And this one is kind of interesting because it does remind me of the back rooms a little bit. So it says you will exit out of the elevator into a hallway of some kind. Checking your room key is pointless, and it will either not have your room number or an entirely impossible one. Your room will make itself known when you find it. As such, begin walking down the hallway. Resist the urges to investigate the other rooms in the hallway. The doors have peepholes in them. Making eye contact may invite unwelcome attention. Keep your eyes focused down and ignore any feelings of being observed. As you proceed down the hall, avoid making noise. The other guests are sleeping, and the hallway is genuinely linear, and you may find various other spaces. But eventually you will arrive at a crossroads. This will occur regardless of whether the exterior topology of SCP-7819 allows for it. There are suspected to be incongruous spaces, such as it is advised not to remain in them for more than a few minutes at most. Personnel have dallied at the crossroads, report dull headaches and paranoia. This is best addressed by picking up a direction at random and beginning to walk down it. It's unclear whether SCP-7819 adapts to one's mind, vice versa, but this has been the most effective method for arriving at one's room. You will know it when you see it. And I will say, though, I had no idea how long I was walking. It felt like 40 minutes. I mean, every successive set of doors kept getting lifted a few inches off the ground until you were literally halfway into the ceiling. This is not a place we were meant to be. Okay, now we're going to your room, your hotel room. And the instructions are simple. Use your key and enter the room. You will immediately feel a chill in the air, and this is normal. Do not close the door behind you until you have turned on all the lights and ensured you are alone in this room. There may be a door to an adjoining room. Move a piece of furniture in front of it, and if not, find another way to barricade it. And the layout of the room will vary and will be completely idiosyncratic, such as having mismatched furniture sets, dozens of chairs filling the room with nothing else, or being difficult to traverse. Do your best to get comfortable. The bathroom may be locked from the inside, but this is not a point of concern unless you have a reason to believe someone is inside. If you do, bar the door to the best of your ability. You may keep the lights on or dim them. But get into bed and pull the covers over yourself. If the room has a television, you may put something on to calm your nerves. Personnel have suggested the home and garden television delivers the best results. Eventually, you'll fall asleep. I can confirm this, by the way. I was watching a gardening channel and I could barely keep my eyes open, and right as I was drifting off, it occurred to me that I hadn't checked under the beds. And, yeah. Anyways, the next place is the pool. And the instructions are simple. That you will wake up in the hotel hot tub. There will be no one else in the indoor pool area, and you'll feel physically awake but mentally exhausted, and that's normal. Don't think it isn't. A small radio will be set at a nearby table playing a song from your childhood, but the signal will be of poor quality. Try to tune it better if you can, but don't change the station. Do not change the station. I feel like I gotta make that very clear. So you may exit the hot tub and inspect the main pool. It will be generally full of idiosyncratic shapes and construction. You will find that the surface tension of the water is much stronger, and it has formed like a thick, tight membrane that prevents objects from breaking through it. As such, do not step into the water. You will drown. Underneath the membrane, you will see shapes moving around. Ignore them. Return to the hot tub and re-enter it. This time, completely submerge yourself. Despite your expectations, once you go under, it will not feel warm. It'll feel painfully fucking cold, as if you're stepping into ice water. Ignore it and open your eyes. You will find that the hot tub descends several feet deeper than expected. Swim to the bottom and grab the small object you see laying on the floor. Inspect it after emerging from the water. You will find your clothes neatly folded on a nearby table. Dry and redress yourself before departing your room. So we're not going to talk about the pool. We're not. But I will tell you, when I swam to the bottom of that hot tub and grabbed the object that was at the bottom, it was an engagement ring. An engagement ring that used to belong to somebody I used to know. So, lastly, there's the breakfast area. And this one is one of the hardest parts because it's just very unexpected. So on your way back to your room, you will pass the breakfast area attached to the lobby. Despite it still being night outside, it will be open and the lights on. Go ahead and enter. There will be a large amount of food laid out on the counters. Most of it will be inedible in some form, though there are usually some edible foodstuffs. Ignore all of them. Do not feel guilty about doing so, and instead make your way to the only other person in the breakfast area. Join them at their table, as they will attempt to persuade you to stay. Politely but firmly deny. It will make your heart hurt, but it's necessary should you wish to leave. And they will repeatedly do this, and you must repeatedly deny until they stop asking. Okay, so I'm going to share my experience. When I was there was plastic fruit, styrofoam waffles, muddy water instead of coffee. Now, I'm not exaggerating. It was literally all fake food, all laid out, and it looked like a typical continental breakfast. It was weird, but I followed the instructions and ignored all of it. and headed for the man at the table. And he was an older guy, salt and pepper hair. He looked like every dad. He reminded me of my dad. And the only sound in the room was the dead air in the television as it softly played static. He seemed really excited to see me. And once he noticed me, he asked me to have a seat, so I did, the opposite to him. And he started bombarding me with questions: where I was from, where I was going, how long I'd been on the road. But not with the sinister edge of the people in the elevator. This guy was genuine, sincere, wanting to know if I was all right and having a good time. I tried my best not to feel bad about ignoring all of the questions, and all I said was, I want to leave. I got the sense he'd heard this a lot, and he was persistent about it. He asked me if there was anything he could do to make the stay better, and I said, sorry, I want to leave. You're not enjoying the amenities, he asked me, and I said, they're fine, but I still want to leave. And he said, don't you think this is nicer than having to deal with the troubles of life? It's a resort. Maybe I'd prefer the troubles over whatever this is. I'm fighting to choke down the parts of me saying he has a point. Eventually, he goes crestfallen. He asks if there was anything he could do to stay. And I said no. He seemed to accept that. He told me to spend the rest of my night, check out in the morning, and he was still sitting there when I left. So this next part is the ending, where we check out. So when you wake up the next morning late, regardless of when you fell asleep, gather your things and depart your room. You will find that the layout of SCP-7819 has shifted dramatically and is much easier to navigate. Several doors in the hallway will be hanging open, and you will pass cleaning carts as if though housekeeping is doing their rounds. There'll be no one around except you. Head to the elevators, head down to the lobby. There will similarly be no one at the front desk. Just put your key down, leave SCP-7819, get in your vehicle, and get back into the highway. Drive until you get into contact with the nearest site and report your encounter. I don't know what SCP-7819 is. Really, I can only make guesses from what I experienced, and like I said, I've taken a lot of road trips as a kid and a few as an adult. There are some deeply, deeply strange things that I've seen, and there are some really stranger things that live on the edges of these highways. Also, if you follow these instructions, you will exit with no issue. And if you haven't, we don't blame you for staying.